Hello and welcome back to the Rebel Entrepreneur, where I am interviewing some really amazing entrepreneurs who are all openly and vulnerably sharing their stories. They're giving us a little glimpse behind the scenes of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, and we're talking about breaking the rules like a boss. And today I'm really excited for our guest, Marie Mitchell. Hello and welcome.
Thank you.
She's a certified professional life coach and relationship coach, and she also is the host of a really cool radio show called Dare to Be Authentic. So her and I have a lot in common there. And then she also has a really cool program called the Majesty in You, and she teaches people to connect with their self and their divinity. So lots of good stuff. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So good to be here with you.
Yeah. Well, you have a really great story, and we'll get into that shortly. But before we do, you want to tell everyone just a little bit about what you do, about your radio show, and about your coaching programs?
Sure. Right now, like you said, I do relationship and life coaching. And my most exciting thing as far as programs, I think, is the Majesty in You. What happened was I went on a women's conference out in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And for me, it was like a retreat. I got away for 3 days from everyone. And while I was there, I had this really intense experience of the divine inside of me. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I took away from the weekend. And so I went home. This was in November, like the week before Thanksgiving. And by January, the whole course had come to me. Right. And so the name came to me first, which was the Majesty in You, it's kind of a strange name. And people look at me like, what does that mean? How can I be majestic? Right. And it's a pretty strong word, but I like to use strong words like dare, majesty. And so what the program does is connects you very deeply with who you really are and with your divine inside of you. And then once you can see yourself the way the divine sees you, it's like open field. You can do anything you want. It's just, and then you also begin to see others that way too. So it's a complete life changer. So I'm really excited about that. Dare to Be Authentic Radio. Wow, that's my baby. I've been doing that 6 years. It will be 7 years starting in February. That will be my 7th year doing this radio show. I chose the name Dare to Be Authentic because that was my path. I didn't know who I was anymore at a point in my life. I had lost myself under mother, daughter, caretaker, wife, every label you can imagine, mm-hmm. Sunday school teacher. And I was doing all these things, but I wasn't happy. And so I had to dig down and find who I really was again and begin to allow the authentic me to come out. And it was not easy. And so that's why I call it Dare to Be Authentic. As you begin to do that, as you already know, people fall away and things fall away and your life begins to change. And so that radio show I love because I feature people every week who have a story about authenticity, people like you. And I just love connecting with people and inspiring others, which is the whole focus of the show. And so that's Dare to Be Authentic. And then, of course, my Dare to Be Authentic books, which I publish, which are books of contributing authors. The one I'm currently working on is called Dare to Be Authentic, Let Yourself Shine. And so I just collect authors who want to be in the show, in the book. They each create a chapter, and then we publish it together and spread the word.
That's so cool. So just hearing you talk, I had never heard that part of your story about where the Majesty in You was born. And I thought that was really cool because our business story has some synchronicity, but that's really cool too, because I had a similar experience on a retreat probably 8 or 9 years ago. And I met with this healer, and I didn't even know what it was supposed to be. And one of the questions she asked me was like, who are you? And I started listing off, oh, my mom, I'm a CEO, and he's like, no. Who are you? And I'm like, I'm trying to tell you. Like, who's the real you? Like, who's the real girl? And it was like, that was kind of like a catalyst in my life to this spiritual awakening too. So I think there's like a huge need for that. And it sounds like
yes.
Thing. So what kind of stuff do you do inside that program? Because now I'm curious.
Oh, you want to know my secrets? The first thing that happens is my client begins to see herself or himself. I haven't had any males take it yet, but I know they will, through the eyes of the divine. And it's such an amazing experience. So we begin to, one of the assignments I give, I'm not going to give it all away, is to write down all your good traits.
Yeah.
And then write down all your quote unquote bad traits.
Right.
And then to begin to dig and see where, I'm clumsy. Well, where did that come from? Or whatever, I'm a bad listener. I'm a bad mom, whatever people want to say. and then to begin to see yourself the way the divine sees you, which is perfect.
Right.
Just perfection.
Yeah.
And just after that first session, it's like people are blown away.
Yeah, that's cool. Really important. So let's hear about your story. So before you got into doing, your radio show and the work that you're doing now, you're in a different career path. So tell us about what you used to do and how the transition came about.
Okay, so I've always been an administrator. I grew up in New York City and landed a job after school in the World Trade Center. I was in international trade. I was a language major. And so I was in international trade, which was fine. I was really good at it. I'm a very good administrator. And I did that for a long time. Then I was a full-time mom for a while and then went back into the business world, into administration. I'm really good at it, but it doesn't fulfill me at all. It doesn't feed me. And so as I struggled in relationships, I divorced and then got into another relationship, which was awful. As I came out of that, I knew that there had to be some changes I had to make to me because my life is not going the way I wanted it to go. Right. And so at the time I was a single mom, I couldn't even afford a coach, but I remember buying all of Cheryl Richardson's books, especially the ones about extreme self-care. She's such a proponent of that. And I began to take care of myself, to listen to myself, to give some space for me. And I began to grow. And I began to find myself. That's what happened. I began to dig down and see, what do I like to do? Yeah. I don't even remember. Mm-hmm. And so I started writing. I joined a writer's group and I started writing. And I joined a social group and started making more friends and being more social. And the writer's group completely changed my life. Writing was so fulfilling to me. And it's become a big part of my life now. So after I went through that transition, I got into law of attraction pretty big. I started to get into law of attraction, and then I led a law of attraction group. It came about so magically. I joined the group and couldn't go because it was a little far from me, and they met on Sunday evenings, which was not good because I had smaller children. And so then the group's leader, stepped down, and it said, to find out more information about leading this group, click here. And I clicked and it made me the leader. I was like,
wow. There you go.
I'm like, oh my God.
Law of attraction at work.
Law of attraction at work. So I'm panicking, right? And I'm looking, I know there's this button where you can push and step down, and I'm going crazy. How do I step down? How do I step down before everybody even notices? But it took so long that by then I'm like, because my girlfriend and I, backing track now, my girlfriend and I had a conversation like the day before, and she says, you should start your own law of attraction group. I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'll let somebody else handle that. Well, the next day this happens. Right. So I took over the group and I started, teaching what I knew, and we all learned together. And one girl walks in one day. She's a life coach. Her name is Jennifer, and we did the group, whatever. She goes, this is awesome. I can't believe you don't charge anything. This is great. You're a great life coach. I said, Jennifer, I'm not a life coach. She goes, oh, yes, you are. You're just not certified yet. And so she
saw that in you.
The information from her school, and I became a certified life coach. And so
were you still working your other job at this point, or had you already quit?
I was still working my other job. I was managing a doctor's office at that point in South Florida. Okay. And so I was doing that, and I got my certification. And from that same group, I didn't promote myself or anything. I just had my certification. And one of the girls in the group said, Rita, what do you do? I said, well, I manage a doctor's office and I'm a life coach. And she says, oh, I need a life coach. And that was my first client, just like that.
Wow.
And so I know. And I was like, so I did that that was 2008. So I did that for 2 years. And then in 2010, I went full time with my coaching. Awesome. Because it was just so amazing. It's what I love to do. It's what I love to do.
Did you feel like all the signs were from the universe there, like showing you, were you scared to like quit that guaranteed paycheck? Because when you go into coaching world, you have to make your own paycheck every week.
Yes, it was one of the scariest things I've ever done. In fact, after I did it, I remember waking up in a panic, waking up and saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But then I would calm down. And so it was scary, but it was worth it. It was really worth it. And it's been a most amazing job. The thing that I love most, I have a brand new client. This is a young little girl from Brazil. I'm coaching younger and younger women, which is very exciting for me. Women in their 20s. Usually, my clientele was more 35, 45, 50. But now the 20s are coming to me, which I think is amazing. Boy, if I knew this when I was in my 20s.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that. So to see the change as they begin to take the session, she took the Majesty in You. She just finished it. And to begin to see her eyes change when she realizes how majestic she really is, how wonderful she is, how all these things she thinks about herself, people have told her, you know, and they're not who she is. Like you were saying, that guy asked, who are you?
Right.
You're not those things that people say you are.
Yeah.
You're so much more amazing than all that junk people throw at you.
Yeah.
And so that lights me up, you know, and having someone on my show and share their giftings and what they've learned, that lights me up. And publishing these books and encouraging people and getting letters or emails that say, oh my gosh, I got one from a former client who's going through a divorce. She says, I pick up the book and I just read the stories over and over again.
Wow.
And it just encourages me and gives me hope that I can do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, if I didn't sell one book, you know, if I didn't make one penny on a book, that's sufficient for me.
Yeah, totally. And that's why we do what we do, because we love it.
Exactly.
You know, it's the ripple effect, and you get to do what you love, and then you get to cause a ripple, and then the people that you're training, like this young 20-year-old girl, to have that kind of empowerment at that young age. And every time you say majestic, I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking of these unicorns, like the graduates are like these majestic unicorns going out in the world. And
oh, I like that. Majestic unicorns. Ooh, love it.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So it continues on. Really cool. Uh-huh. So for anyone, because I know I work with a lot of people who have that dream, that vision in their heart, and they're kind of scared to take that first step. So a lot of people do, and I did this for a while too, where you're working in the corporate world, or you're doing a job, or you own a business that you don't really love, but it's money's coming in, but your heart is pulling you in this other direction, and your brain's like, oh, I don't know, and the practical, and trying to balance it also. What advice would you have for someone that maybe is doing what they love part-time, and they're thinking about taking the leap? Because you've done it, and looking back, you're probably like, oh, that wasn't so bad. But what would you say to someone?
You know, it's a matter of faith. It really is. It's a matter of really trusting yourself. That's what I learned. Because what happens, and this happened to me in the beginning, if you don't trust yourself and you don't trust that you have this gift and that this is what you're supposed to do, I mean, people are waiting for you to help them, then you create a negative income, which is not a good thing. But if you can fully step into trusting yourself and trusting your guidance and knowing, and then following your guidance. And that's really the key thing. In the beginning, I didn't know so much how to follow my guidance. I followed a lot of expert guidance, you know, business coaches, other people who had a way that worked for them, but I didn't know it wouldn't work for me. And so I spent a lot of money and time following things that didn't work for me. So really the best advice I can give is just connect deeply to yourself and follow your own guidance. We have our guidance system, which is 100% right on, better than GPS.
Yes.
But I don't always listen to it. I'm learning more and more that when I listen to it, things work out well. And when I don't listen to it, they don't.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a good point too, because I think we've all done it. We've spent money on coaches and programs, and we want to learn from the people that walk the path. And, you know, and oftentimes you do learn from these programs. I mean, there's stuff you pick up because if someone else has walked the path, they have a lot of wisdom to share with you. But you make such a good point that the most valuable information is already inside of us. And exactly. Learn to listen to that guidance and, you know, pay attention to the signs and things like that. Then you don't have the old, you know, universal 2x4 like knocking you on the head, like with me. You know, you're like, ouch, that hurt. I ended up going out of business, and but it brought me to doing what I love. And it's like, well, if I was only paying attention to these signs, you know, the universe was like, no, you're going to do this, which is what I wanted to do all along, but I was taking my sweet time. So, right. Yeah. So you have to not only tune in and get that information, but actually act on it too. Act on it. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The universe has a funny way of completely closing a door right in your face. You know, sometimes, like you say, that 2x4 because you're not really listening, and it's like, boom, and you're like, okay, I think I get it now. Right, I get it. And it's painful at the time. It's painful. It's like, oh, thank you. I'm so grateful. Like, yes, this is what I was, you know, that was supposed to happen. Thank you. So if you're going through a painful part right now, just think that down the road, you'll be able to look back and actually be grateful for it. Absolutely. Yeah. So I love the concept of your radio show, Dare to Be Authentic, because I think there's a lot, especially in the business world, but even in our own like personal lives, you know, we show up in the world a lot of times as the person we think people want us to be, whether it's who your parents and your family want you to be, who the media and like, you know, the corporate world wants you to be, or, you know, we're always afraid, well, if they really see me, are they going to judge me? Are they going to like me? And, you know, so we hold back, and sometimes we're ashamed of things that have happened in our past, and instead of owning it, we wear it, you know, as like heavy baggage. So it's so powerful to just be yourself, to be authentic. It's good for the soul. It's actually good for business. People like want to work with you when they see you.
Yes.
They are. Now, so I know you get a lot of authentic stories on your show, but what do you think is keeping people back? Is it just fear of themselves? Do they not know themselves, or combination? Like, what's going on? Like, why are we so like guarded and
you know what? When we're born, because I have grandchildren, and I have a granddaughter who just turned 3. Yeah. And if you watch a baby or a child, there couldn't be anything more authentic. Yeah. So we're born authentic. It's kind of beat out of us, and I don't mean physically beat. Between our parents and the school system and the religious institutions, everything, and the school system especially, everybody has to be the same, you know, everybody's gauged by the same tests. Everybody has to be good in every subject, you know.
Yeah.
You have to be a math whiz and a reading whiz and everything else. And so we begin to conform, and I'm even watching that 3-year-old beginning to conform. And beginning to know, mommy, you know, likes this, mommy doesn't like that. This is what I need to do, and then say, "Oh, sorry." And it's really interesting to watch. And of course, I did it to my kids. I knew nothing back then.
Yeah.
And so it's not something that I don't think it's something at this point in our world that we can help, is to become unauthentic, because it's what society pushes on us.
Yeah.
They don't like authenticity. You know, they don't like the rebels. Everybody sits in the same place at the same time with their hands a certain way, and that's how it is. And you either conform or you get punished.
Right.
And so that's how we're raised. And so, and some people just conform. I was a big conformist my entire life. So having made these changes, I was a huge rebel at this point. I mean, I was completely wild out of my mind.
Is your family like, are you crazy? What are you thinking? Did you get that kind of feedback? Because I know that happens a lot.
There were some things I didn't share with my family because I knew they would go ballistic. You know, I come from a very, very conservative family. My family actually are immigrants from Cuba. I'm actually an immigrant. I came to America when I was a year old, but I'm an American because I grew up here. But very strict, you know, very conservative. Yeah. You know, so it took me a long time. It took me to almost my 50s to begin to really step into who I am. And but it's not easy, and you lose people along the way. You lose relationships, sometimes family members, but it's all worth it. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. You were talking about being authentic before and how it felt. It is so freeing. I don't have to make believe with anybody. I don't have to make believe on a date. I don't have to make believe with a client. I don't have to make believe in the grocery store. I can just be me.
So liberating. Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing for people is thinking about what other people will think. Mm-hmm. Back to this 28-year-old client I had, one of the biggest things she kept saying to me is, I'm always worried about what other people are going to think if I say this, if I do this. And I think that's what holds us back.
Yeah, we all have that. Some more than others, but to some extent.
Some more than others. Yeah. And once I got to the point where I didn't care, and I don't mean not caring because I don't love people.
Right.
But not really caring what anybody thinks. This is who I am. I'm not hurting anybody. This is who I am. So either you accept me the way I am or you don't, and that's okay because there's other people who will accept me. So once I really got strong enough inside to understand that the divine made me who I am for a purpose, and made you, and made everyone out there. And we're all different for a reason. We're not supposed to be the same. Yeah. So getting away from from worrying about what people think is huge in authenticity.
Yeah, no one is like you, and that's what makes you awesome and powerful. Like that's, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think that there's actually a shift going on too, though, in consciousness where I think it's kind of more of an old school way, but it'll take a while for it to, really show up in the world. But that, especially like corporate, you have to look a certain way, act a certain way. You got to put on a smile, never let them see you sweat. But in the business world, I'm definitely seeing a big shift, especially if you look at millennials, that particular younger demographic. They want to spend their money with people whose visions are aligned up with theirs, whose ethics and morals are aligned up with theirs. You know, we are holding corporations accountable. You know, think about the stuff that happened with Wells Fargo and like the oil companies. And, you know, we expect that the corporations to act a certain way. So, and even for small businesses, people want to know like who's behind the scenes, like who's the role that I'm spending my money with, not this like robotic, I'm telling you what you want to hear. So you'll buy, like we can sense that.
Oh, yes.
Right. It's so authentic. So when someone shows up in the business world is authentic and they talk about their struggles and their successes, and they're just so, you know, I love that. I love to work with people like that, but I see it. You know, and people, when I post something vulnerable, people are like, oh, I want to work. It's just like, I see it in action. I've seen it with my clients. So I think it's a beautiful thing. It's nice to see this shift. Are you noticing?
I am. In fact, I interviewed a lady who calls herself the spiritual entrepreneur. She's of Indian descent, from India. And she brings spirituality. She's a CEO into her company. And she's in New York City of all cities. Yeah. So this stuff is beginning to ignite.
Yeah.
And I think the change is going to come faster than we think, because once it begins to ignite, and having the millennials come in and be authentic.
Yeah.
And I mean, it started with the hippie movement, right? Back in the 60s. What did they want? To be authentic, to break out of these chains. And then we kind of sunk back into it in the 80s, you know, and trying to muddle ourselves out of it again. So I always think that things are progressing the way they're supposed to progress. And I see more and more people. I'm meeting men who are very authentic, which sometimes that's difficult. They really have to put on that strong front, you know? Yeah. And so it's changing. I agree. It's absolutely changing.
It is. It's a beautiful thing. And then back to your radio show. So do you feel like you have to coach people a lot to get their story out of them, or by the time they get to you, are they just like willing to share and they've already, I find like sharing my authentic story is hard. Like the first few times I was scared, like I published a blog that was very vulnerable. And like just getting ready to get that published, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? But now I've told my story like 1,000 times. It's like that, like no big deal, right? But so do you find you have to do a lot of coaching to help people like realize the power of it, or are they like just like me, like whatever, I'll tell my story?
The people I connect with, and it's because I asked the divine to show me and connect me with the right people, are always ready.
Yeah,
they're always ready to share. Now, with me, that doesn't mean they're always ready to share it on air. So that's a big step. And that's one of the things, one of the reasons I created Dare to Be Authentic. You know, it has a twofold mission. Number one, to just encourage people with encouraging stories and messages and ways and paths that are different for all of us, and they all work. But the other one is to give a platform, a place for you to come, for someone to come and share their story. And yeah, dare to be authentic. You have to be daring to be on my show. You have to dare to be vulnerable, to share your story, to let people hear your mistakes and, you know, things that you may be ashamed of that you did. But you know how powerful that is when you begin to tell, because people don't throw shame at you. They're like amazed, and it touches their heart, and then they begin to change. So they're ready, and it's because I connect with the people I'm supposed to connect to. And some need a little coaxing to actually go on air, and then if they want to go further to be in the book, the ones who want to be in the book, because now they're writing about their stories and they're getting deeper. It's not a half-hour interview. Right. It's a whole story. Yeah. So those I coach more, and I coach them to be more vulnerable, more honest, go ahead and tell those details, and it's a healing experience for them.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And that's a good point you make about people aren't going to shame you. I mean, it's like they want to lift you up. They're like, you know, I've connected to your humanness. You showed me a side of you, like, and I can feel you. And they see a reflection of themselves in the story always, even if their life is nothing like yours, they can always see some sort of reflection.
Yes.
Of a heartache, a struggle, or something. And it is very touching. It's how we connect. And
it is.
That's why it's so powerful. You know,
it is.
People see, they're like, you know, oh my gosh, I've been holding this story inside me all these years because I was ashamed. They're going to judge me. They're not going to like me. They're not going to do business with me. And then it's the opposite. People like lift you up And then even if you get like a small percent, because, you know, you can't say every, you can never say every, or, you know, you maybe some people are like, oh, that story wasn't for me. You know, now I don't like you. Like one person out of 100 or whatever. And that's fine. You're not supposed to connect with them anyway, right?
That's right. That's right. They're not your kind of people. They're not your tribe, as people like to say.
And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with the right people are going to love you. And if they don't, that's okay too. like, no big deal. Like, it's nothing personal. It just, you know, it's not a connection.
That's correct. That's so true.
Oh, and now have you had any guests come after they published with you or were on your show and told you any story of like, oh my gosh, my business exploded, or, you know, I feel so alive, or like, what's kind of like the aftermath of that, the sharing?
Some of them, the ones who haven't done radio before, find it to be very energizing. It's like, oh my gosh, first it's scary, you know, and they're scared of this, and like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. But then it's like you and I just talking, and you forget you're on radio or whatever, and you're just talking, and then when it's over, they're like, wow, that was a lot easier than I thought it was. Yeah. So many of them had told not so much stories about their business exploding,
right,
which is good, but to me this is more important. More stories about how they felt more secure in themselves. They're like, you know, I did radio now, and wow, you know, I know my stuff, and I know that it's valuable. And then when we have, like, sometimes people will call in and they'll ask questions, so that's always a bonus. Oh, yeah. And there was one lady in particular. She's 80-something years old. She became a coach at 80 years old.
Wow.
Her name is Arnath.
That's awesome.
Hers is the second highest listened show of all my shows.
And she must
and
have
her phone was ringing off the hook.
I love it.
Months later, she'll still write me and say, you know, people are still calling me about that radio. People still listen to her radio show. It's like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years. Yeah. So we have those stories as well. But it's like anything else. It's the intention that you put into it.
Right.
That's big. Yeah. And so Arnath is she's a law of attraction coach. And so she put all her intention into this show doing something wonderful, and it did.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Intention is very important. Yeah. And I would say too, when you are ready to share your story and be vulnerable, you know, share it from a place of inspiration, and, you know, that I'm sharing this to inspire others. I'm sharing this for my own self-healing. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't just put it out there, because, you know, I want to be on a radio show, or because I want more business, or, you know. Yeah, I always tell people that too when I do workshops on vulnerability and storytelling. I say, well, this isn't Jerry Springer. It's not like, let's just put all our dirty laundry out there. Sit back and wait for the phone to ring. Like, oh, I want to work with you. Like that. But if it is, you know, like you said, with intention, with a positive intention to, you know, inspire and to, you know, and it does create the ripple effect too. You know, people hear vulnerable stories and they're like, oh, now I've been holding something. I'm going to go share it with my Facebook, or I'm going to share with someone. I've never told anyone this before. So I think if we continue to open up and be ourselves, you know, the more people that do in the world, the more we'll, you know, love ourselves. We can love each other, and there won't be as much fighting and divisive and political junk going on and everything.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, when we step out and we share our story and we dare to be authentic, that we're a model for people.
Yeah.
So like you said, they may not share their story with the world. They may just share their story with their best friend, a story they never shared. And then they may go to a therapist or a life coach or wherever they need to get help because they have this terrible thing that happened to them that they never shared, that happened when they were 10.
Yeah.
So opening us stepping forward and sharing these stories is a model. You know, we are modeling. Our life is a model for other people. And then that gives them the courage to say, well, I can't say it on the radio, but I can tell somebody about it. I can tell a counselor about it, you know?
And like you said, it's so liberating. It's so
it is.
Like, oh, I don't have to wear this veil anymore. I can just be me, and this is me. Love me or not, this is me.
It's so true. It's so true. And, you know, a lot of I love to wear jeans, and I'm in California. So a lot of times I meet my clients and I'm wearing, you know, a nice shirt with jeans. And I'm like, you know what? I can be the life coach who wear jeans. I'm not wearing a suit. You know, I did that in the business. I did that in the World Trade Center. I don't need to wear a suit.
Right.
In fact, I'm going to be going to this event in Long Beach, and I'm trying to think, what am I going to wear? Because I sure as heck am not wearing a suit. because I'm going to be doing this new launch with some other coach friends. And I was just thinking, I wonder what I'm going to wear. So, I mean, I'm not going to wear jeans probably, but I'm not going to wear a suit either. So it's good to be able to be comfortable, not only with ourselves, but with the clothes that we wear or the hair or the makeup, instead of trying so hard you're not.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and that makes you stand out too. People are going to want to talk to you. Like if you're the only one not in a suit, they're like, oh, who are you?
Like, what's with her?
Blue hair, and you wear your daughter's, hair bow.
I don't think I'll go that far, but
like, let me talk to you. I know I'm always attracted to the ones that are sticking out. Like, hey, what's your story? You probably have a good story.
Yep.
Oh, well, I'm just monitoring the time, and I know we're getting close to the end here, but there is one question I've been asking all the guests, and I wanted to ask you as well. And it goes in line with what we hit on a little bit earlier, that there's no like one size fits all business package. Like there's no buy this 10-step program and you're going to be, making $1 million in 6 months, even though some people try to market that to you.
I know.
It's something, sometimes it's tempting to pay for that, but it is a lot of going within. So in that vein, I've been asking everyone, what is some business advice you were given and followed, and it seemed like really solid advice on the outside, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work with you. Just to show that, sometimes your path is different. Can you think of any examples like that?
Absolutely. That conference that I went to in Santa Fe, it was a women's conference, and it was with a business coach. And we learned one of the things she was teaching. She's very successful. She makes almost 7 figures, and she does all her coaching virtually. But she does like group coaching virtually. So everybody, comes in, and she could have 50 people all paying the fee.
Oh.
So I took the course to learn how to do that. And the Majesty and You came forth as the course. I'm like, this is awesome. I got the course. I got the stuff how to do it. And so there I went, beginning to promote it, doing all those free promos you do. You learn how you get the people, you give them a little bit of information. They come, they shout, they roar. Nobody signed up for the course.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, So I did it again and again and again. I did all these free promos, spent a lot of time. That's my time. I was doing that instead of other things.
Yeah.
Nobody signed up. Nobody. Zero people. I had this course ready to go. Beautiful worksheets. I prepared the whole thing. I still have it. So while I'm teaching, that was about 3 years ago. It was in 2014. Yeah. So 2 years ago. Oh, it'll be 2 years in November. Okay. So I had the course. It was complete. I just let it sit there. And one day when I was studying again the day that the course would start, because you had to say start on this day, ends on this day, it's at this time. And I was thinking, gosh, I got to pick, is it Tuesday? Is it Wednesday? Is it Thursday at 8? Do I do it at 8 p.m. or 6 p.m.? Pacific, Eastern, what am I doing? And this was the thought that I had, the feeling, I don't want to do this.
Right.
It came up so strong. I don't want to do it at any time. Wow. I don't want to do this. And I listened. Because I was struggling with that. So I was working so hard for nothing.
Nothing happening, yeah.
And then I thought, I don't want to do this. I don't have to do this. And I stopped. And then this year, beginning of this year, was when people began to come to me and take this course. But I'm teaching it one-on-one. I do it virtually, of course, because I have clients all over the world. But I do it one-on-one, not in groups.
And what do you think was the resistance? Was that just the universal way saying, a group format is not right for this? It needs to be more intimate?
I like to be able to connect, like you and I are connecting over video. Right. When you do it as a class, you don't see anybody's faces. They see your face. And I think I have a problem with that. I'm not saying I will never do that.
Right.
But right now, I love to be able to interact. I want to see your eyes. I want to see what your eyes look like when I ask you a question and you answer it.
You get so much more information that way.
Yeah, and I want to be able to connect with you because what I have to offer is me. And I want to be able to connect with you and see you connect with me. And so I think I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing that. obviously people are making 7 figures doing it. But for me right now, I'm not saying I'll never do it. It wasn't. So that was one thing, you know, and I spent a lot of money on that course. I did everything she said to do the perfect way. And I was really hard on myself because it was working. I was blaming myself.
What's wrong with me?
Yeah. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? I can't even get 2 people to sign up.
Yeah.
So what I did was I only raised the price minimally. I kept the price pretty much at the group price. It's peanuts. And then it began to work. So I learned that, and I got so much from that conference and from her. So I'm not going to say the whole thing was good, but the lesson for me is whatever someone is offering, be open to it and receive it and take what's good for you and works for you, and then leave the rest.
Yeah.
And then you may find that 2 years. And then you may find
the fortitude to instead of just saying, like, a lot of people just like feel bad and throw in the towel, like, oh, I wasted it, this is a waste, and just like bury it, you know. And you're like, no, let's just change it a little bit instead of just
exactly. It's never a waste.
Yeah.
Everything, even what people would call a negative experience, is never a waste because you learn something from it.
Yeah, that's
what learn something about yourself.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so where can people connect with you? And I know you also have a really cool free download on 21 Days to Self-Love. So where can people find that? And
okay, lifecoachmari.com. So it's lifecoachmari.com. Really easy. Go to the main page and you can sign up for 21 Days to Self-Love. I created that also after that seminar I went to. It is a program, free program, where you have 21 days of videos that I tell you what to do for the day to connect with self-love. So that when you're done with the 21 straight days of just loving yourself, it's an amazing program.
I love
Go there and get that. Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. Everyone needs that. Cool. And you can also go to the rebelentrepreneur.biz and click on Mari's face and get to her page. And I'll put a link there too, so make it easy for everyone.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's been so good talking to you. And definitely check out the radio show, Dare to Be Authentic. You hear lots of good stories. And it's been great talking to you. Thanks so much for being with us here today.
Oh, it's been lovely. Thank you so much for having me as a guest.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.